Alright, so deep analysis on Archer. It's an event tower that hasn't been seen much uses. Unlike something like Frostbite in Void Call early game, I'm gonna just lower this down. Or something like Gladiator's recent rework, which is pretty good. Or Spotlight Technician to reveal hiddens and insane fire damage. I honestly think Arch is one of the best event towers, and I still see it on like one of the worst ones for some reason, which is weird. It's literally buff Electroshocker. First off, we can see right here, it's already hitting. It has this much hit max hits range, which has 8 max hits, and it can hit very far actually. And it can even clear. It clears early to mid very well. And I've only used Archer. I haven't used any other defender. Commander's no DJ. So, and I've already almost cleared out my farms, uh, which is pretty impressive. Arch is a very good early to mid game tower because on paper you might think the bomb and fire get outclassed, but the thing is, I'll agree that the fire damage isn't that amazing, but its max hits is it has a max hits of 8, which is so good because being able to hit 8 enemies at a time allows it to do huge crowd control DPS for mid game, and it has very good range of 24, which is considering the fact that it even gets a good value cost efficient single target from explosive arrows, which has 85. It makes it even better considering that it can still do a tiny crowd control. Now this tower is a little bit micro to a certain extent because it is like you can struggle at certain points. I heard a lot of people that they complain it just because it no longer can detect flying, which it can still do it because it has the bouncing arrows can ricochet through enemy to enemy if it's not like if it's detectable. And not even wave 20, I've already maxed out my farms. The nice thing about Archer 2 is that it can even half of its explosive damage can bypass shields, since it's a bomb arrow, which bombs can bypass defense system mechanic, making it even stronger than it is. If we're counting for each arrow, Flame Arrow has insane crowd control. It has 8 max hits, which without its fire, by the way, it has 320 DPS each. That's extremely impressive for the cost of 14,000 and 24 range. It only has hidden detection, which is good enough because it's already got super high value for crowd control. Unlike something like Rocketeer, which you probably hit more enemies in late game but do less in the mid game because of the explosion, Archer will do more, and the fact it costs this much is impressive. But unlike something like Rocketeer, which has issues of being great at crowd control but lack the single target, Archer can handle crowd control very well too, because it's got explosive arrows, which has 85 DPS for single target, and like I said, half of it can bypass defense. And because half of its damage is explosive, it also can deal lead, which is very useful for lead single target, especially in frost mode. Now, I will say that shock arrows aren't the greatest. They have 3 less max hits. It's supposed to be 4, but for some reason it's actually 5, which is weird. And the shock time isn't great. You can actually play around with it by stacking up the shock time by spreading them around. As long as they're not attacking all at once, it can be pretty solid. But I'd usually say really only use it if you're on if you have stronger towers, then shock arrows can be pretty helpful. And as you can see, I'm already at 40k and it's already performing pretty well. I forgot to get D-Bag, which is pretty solid. Now, obviously, it isn't very good for late game because it's an early to mid game tower. I need to get Rager just for flying. For strategies, I'd probably recommend getting first one fire arrow, target to random. I have a lot of strategies for this out. First off, if you want purely crowd control, I definitely recommend just spamming fire archers because 320 DPS accumulates to just 10 archers is 3,200 crowd control DPS, which is extremely high for a cost of 14k, which is like 140k. That's very cheap. And as you can see, it can also hit flying enemies too, just as long as you place them right. A nice thing is that because archer arrows can ricochet, you can see it can. It doesn't need to worry something like aggressor enemies because archer can rebound arrows to another enemy, which is very useful. So, and that's a strategy. Is second strategy is single target mid game because archer has very good cost efficiency value. It actually has explode for arrow is 166 per DPS, which is really decent. And if you count to the fact that, like I said, a bomb and that it has high range, it actually has a cost value, stat value of 6.9. What is stat value? It's just basically cost efficiency divided by range. It has a 24 range, so that's actually on par with something like an engineer or Gatling gun, because it has a huge range, which is pretty impressive. And unlike something like Sniper, which has it has high stat value efficiency, but that's because it's just range. This house stat value isn't too high without being a massive overkill, and still managed to be very good. Third is, I guess, a third strategy you can do with Archer is use shock arrows as its stalling, which is they're not really that powerful because stalling shock arrows stun towers aren't really that good. Even Tesla isn't very good for some reason. But if you can get the cogs right by getting commanders down, you can get pretty solid results. I'm not even using Ranger, and Archer's already clearing early to mid game very sufficing. The only reason I'm getting Ranger is mostly because of flying enemies, and that's it. And even an Archer can handle them sufficient enough. So yeah, in my opinion, Archer's an A tier tower. It's it's been seen used in trial modifiers because you can place them down, and then after that you can get a Juggernaut and Hacker spam. Those work, and you can see here the shotgun can actually do some pretty work because you can spread them around, get commander, and not even boost it. It can actually do pretty solid. So yeah, crowd control in this tower is pretty perfect. So yeah, it's not the best late game tower, but early to mid game it crushes through those. Because, like I said, it can detect hidden at level 2 for a very cheap price. It can damage lead from fire arrows and explode arrows. And while flying isn't the best, it can rebound to like something like flying enemies in the early game in hardcore, which is pretty good. I remember using it trying to one tower off only. It actually got up to wave 3 on its own. I did kind of use time scale tickets, which I think is kind of unfair. But as you can see, it kind of destroys flying enemies. That's pretty cool. So yeah, that's my analysis for the Ruby project. The rest of the game is just gonna be me playing this game. It's just me gonna be playing this game on follow mode to see how Archer pretty much performs. Yeah, that's it. Archer's pretty underrated, and I think it's kind of overhated because it can't really detect flying enemies anymore. And I can see why the nerfed Archer was bad, but after it got buffed, it's kind of good actually. I'd say it's stronger than before. I want to say it's better because yeah, it kind of before was too versatile. Bomb arrows is like one of the most like versatile towers in TDS history. This single target wasn't amazing, but its value was pretty solid, and the fact that it could literally detect all enemies and still do AoE decently, I think that's a little bit too much. So, yeah, I kind of bound it to be where it is. So yeah.
Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers. Watermelon. Come on. Watermelon. Watermelon. Destroy the weak. Come on.
Alright, I practically got every towers down, so now it's just, well, you'll
Watermelon.
see the tower performances. That's pretty much about it, because these towers are very cheap in general. Ranger's kind of one of the cheapest Lycan towers in TBS. So yeah.
Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers. Come on. Strength in numbers. Destroy the weak. Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers. Come on. Strength in numbers. Come on. Come on. Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers. Strength in numbers. Destroy the weak.
That was depressing.